there's a sense in which I know your work, and you've I saw you in Kazakhstan, being very charitable to the Pope, to his face, helping him to see the Kazakhstan peasants and so forth, and that was a wonderful example of, I think, what we're called to do. And I'm curious, because it's also important, just as important, at that very event when he was in Kazakhstan, for you to have said what you said in terms of the dangers of this kind of meeting, which of course, mortalium animos, you had plenty of backing from the constant teaching of the church to say what you said. But my point is that many people took a lot of solace in the fact that you said what you said, because if no one speaks out, I think there's a temptation to despair and to depression, and to think the church is gone completely off the rails. So I guess I'm asking, it seems like the work of speaking out is not going to push people out of the church. If we speak out correctly, as you say, in charity, but with adamancy, I think it helps people keep in the church, stay in the church. Is that sort of what your intentions are also?
Of course. We cannot leave the church. We are in the church. We are members of the church. And when the church is suffering and the Holy See is now to some extent occupied by forces which are damaging the faith, evidently, undermining the faith, occupied city. But it is a temporal phenomenon. So therefore we have also to look supernaturally, that the church is in the hands of God, in the hands of Christ. Even in the most greatest tempest of the sea, when Jesus is in the boat, sleeping but in the boat, and the boat cannot sink, even in the greatest tempest. And these people should have this vision of this indestructibility of the church, and we have to remain in the church because we have no other place where to go. And we have not to create another kind of our church, or a sect or some community independent. This is not Catholic. Catholic is always in union with a Pope and a Bishop. This is Catholic. Even if we have to, regrettably, admonish the Pope or make appeals to him and corrections, he will remain the Pope. And we will continue to pray for him. We will continue even to love him, maybe more, because he is in a pitiful situation. What he has to answer before the judgment of God, imagine. It is frightening what he has to answer for leaving such a chaos in the church, a confusion. We have to have really pity with his soul and love him, his soul, Pope Francis. Pray for him, do sacrifices for him, that he may be illuminated and recognize the errors which he is committing. Like John the 22nd had the grace to repent before he died. It would be a great grace. We have to implore this for Pope Francis and for other bishops who are also spreading confusion in the church and so on. So we have not to shut ourselves in anger. So no, I will not do nothing with this Pope, I have to do nothing with this Bishop. No, this is not the attitude of a Catholic. It's an attitude of a sectarian, ultimately. And we have to avoid these temptations. Continue, even when in some cases we say we cannot obey now to the Pope because he did these commands or orders which are evidently undermining the faith, or taking us away the treasure of the liturgy, which is the liturgy of the entire church, not of him, of our fathers, of our saints. So we have the right to this. And then in these cases, even if we would formally disobey, we will obey the entire church of all the times. And we will even do with such a apparently formal disobedience an honor to the Holy See, that we were kept the treasures of liturgy, which is a treasure of the Holy See, but temporarily limited or discriminated by those who currently occupy high offices in the Holy See. So we have to see the Holy See is greater than only a single Pope. And we have to also, all this is for the honor of the Holy See and ultimately also for the love of the Pope. Because when one day he will appear before the judgment of God, and God will say, oh, because you gave these orders, you damaged the spiritual good of the church, the Lord will say to the Pope, because you prohibited or marginalized and discriminalized the holy liturgy of the saints of all the ages, these treasures. This is your responsibility. And the church lost, in this case, many graces because you locked down the liturgy of the ages of the saints. And then the Lord will show him, but you know, during your pontificate there were groups, priests, who did not obey you to collaborate with this marginalizing of the liturgy, and they nevertheless continued to celebrate the liturgy, and therefore your guilt can be a little bit diminished, because in your pontificate there was still places where the liturgy of all ages was celebrated. So it's only an imagination of me, and therefore we will say to the Pope, Holy Father, even if we are disobeying you, we are doing this because of love for you, for the Holy See, for the liturgy of all saints, and this will be for you in the hour of your judgment a consolation, because we did not collaborate with your harmful orders.
Your Excellency, that was beautifully stated, and I was thinking about all the people that we hear from day to day, people around the world who watch Remnant TV or read our newspaper. And what you just said, I'd like to take that, clip that, and send it to priests who are wondering what they should do under Traditionis Custodes, because I think it's very important for the priests and bishops to really think about the lay position right now. It's so disheartening, because not only are they losing their Latin Mass, I'm talking about mothers and fathers with 7, 8, 9, 10 little children, but they've been driving for 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour every Sunday, every week for 25 years to try to raise their families and generations. And now even that far distant Mass is being taken away by the Pope for no apparent reason that makes any sense to them. So the priests that have the opportunity to continue to offer the traditional Latin Mass to these beautiful Catholics who are simply trying to remain faithful, I think through disobedience will help them stay in the church.
Exactly. And in these Masses, even if they are formally not approved, always this is important, to pray for the Pope Francis, to pray for the Bishop of that diocese, even loud, his loud voice, that you will see we are not schismatic, we are not a new sect or so, and praying for the Pope. And so we love him, but we cannot temporarily follow his damaging, harming orders. And these priests have to have a superior. It's very important. They cannot be their own Pope or their own bishop. This is not Catholic, simply not Catholic. And this will, by time, degenerate this priest in a kind of guru. And we have a lot of examples today also, unfortunately, in the traditional world also. Priests who are completely independent. This cannot be. This is contrary to the Catholic spirit. A priest cannot be independent. He has to have a superior.
And if he doesn't, what should he do?
He has to seek a superior.
Okay.
It cannot be his own. This is not Catholic. Then he has to go to a community or to the Society of Pius X to affiliate, to have at least a superior, whom he has to give account. A priest has to have a superior. Otherwise, he starts to develop his own, that he is a pope, he is a bishop, he is all. And this is so dangerous. So, or seek, of course, a community which is approved, and even if it should be the Society of Pius X, which is partly approved by the Holy See through the concessions which the Holy Father gave them. But then there is a structure, there is an obedience, there is a subordination. Or in very rare cases, maybe a retired bishop, a Catholic retired bishop who has still faculties, even so he is retired, he is in good stand, and he can submit him to this bishop to receive from him orders and to give account in a discreet and maybe temporal way, manner, until the Holy See will have again those in the Holy See who will promote and protect the holy tradition.
It's obviously very important for us to, not unlike the Christians in the catacombs of old, come together